Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, January 18th, 2017. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The Constitutional Court publicized its decision on the vetting law today, 28 days after the decision was made. In a 50-page document, the Constitutional Court responded to the 4 claims made by the Democratic Party and the Union of Judges. The court found that the law stipulates the Appellate College and the Independent Commission of Qualification are the only institutions that can realize the vetting process. No other institution can carry out the assessment process for the judges and prosecutors. According to the Constitutional Court, the documents gathered by the High Inspectorate of Declaration and Audit for Conflict of Interest can serve as evidence in a reevaluation, but the documents procured by the HIDACI cannot be lawfully legitimate. Basically saying that any institutions other than the Appellate College and the Independent Commission of Qualification, which are involved in the vetting process, have only support roles in the process. The Constitutional Court says that the claim of the vetting law violating legal principles is unfounded, as the constitutional provision of the law already states the rules for assessing the judges and prosecutors. The Constitutional Court also says the claim that the vetting law violates fundamental human rights is unfounded. Intervention in the case of vetting is made in the interest of public and related to national and public security interests. Finally, the Constitutional Court says that the claim of failure to respect parliamentary procedures for the approval of the law is also unfounded, as the provisions within Parliament's regulations have been followed. The court ruled that the opposition complaints are unfounded. The Constitutional Court purports its 6-2 vote for approving the vetting law on December 22nd, noting that the law is in accordance with the country's constitution and the European Convention on Human Rights. The vetting law can now clear the way for taking the necessary procedural steps towards implementing the judicial reform. Joint projects between Albania and the European Union are on the right path. During the meeting of the IPA Project Monitoring Committee, the Minister of Integration declared that there are no problematic projects this year, noting that there were 7 problematic projects last year. The Minister of Integration announced that the European Union will give €10 million towards implementing the vetting law. We have not had any problematic projects since December of 2016, comparing that to the 7 we had in April of 2015. The European Union will give €19.1 million and 10 million of that will be used for implementing the vetting law, declared the Minister of Integration. Meanwhile, according to the IPA Program Director, Albania has fulfilled the recommendations of April of 2015, when the program was last monitored. The Parliamentary Law Commission gathered today to discuss the law on cybersecurity, but electronic voting and counting for the June 18th parliamentary elections was the subject of discussion between the majority and opposition members of the commission. The Democrat MP, Edward Halimi, said that applying this system would guarantee free elections. The Democrat MP added that this is not only the opposition's cause, but the cause of every party that requires standards. The Socialist member, Mr. Manya, reiterated that there is not enough time to apply electronic voting and counting to the upcoming elections, adding that a feasibility study is needed first before applying the system. The Socialist MP added that the OSCE has also highlighted that there is no time. Amidst the discussions, the Parliamentary Law Commission did approve the law on cybersecurity, which aims for a high-security information network and systems. The Democratic Party's Secretary General, Arben Ristani, has spoken against any possible coalition with the Socialist Movement for Integration. During an interview with an Aura News journalist, Mr. Ristani stated that a possible cooperation would be for free elections and the application of electronic voting, which according to him is completely possible. We are open to cooperate with any party that accepts biometric identification and electronic voting, even a party within the majority, declared the DP General Secretary. Mr. Ristani used to be a Central Election Commissioner and can be considered a good authority of the election process, and he asserts that it is possible to apply electronic voting and counting for the June 18th elections if there is political will. If they were really interested in having a code that includes all OSCE recommendations, they would have realized this before elections in 2015. They cannot say now that there is no time, declared Ristani, implying that the OSCE is not committed to making the necessary changes to the electoral code. According to the DP General Secretary, the only problem for the implementation of electronic voting is a funding issue, which according to him can be solved with political will. Speaking of the opposition's planned actions, the DP General Secretary said that there is no guidance for protests and gave assurance that the opposition will use any means to make the majority accept electronic voting. Cases of the flu virus have reduced slightly in this third week of January. The number of people affected by the influenza virus reached 21,000 in just the first few days of January, and the Institute of Public Health is reporting only 20,000 cases this week. An expert at the Institute of Public Health says that the decrease is being noticed in cities all around Albania, but the Institute of Public Health has repeated their plea for citizens to be vaccinated. The expert stated, the AH3N2 virus is currently circulating in the Balkans and in Europe. The spread can only be stopped by being vaccinated. Even though the health authorities are marking a decreasing number of people with the flu, the country is still on high alert as the low temperatures and bad weather conditions, which favor the virus, will continue. The Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Local Issues have set up a task force to regulate meat trading conditions. The Minister of Agriculture declared today that criminal proceedings will be pursued in cases of meat trade violations. All those who do not respect the set criteria, the hygienic criteria, will be fined or even criminally charged, said the Minister of Agriculture. Meanwhile, the Minister of Local Issues declared that mayors who allow the violations will not be tolerated. Mayors who allow unlicensed markets in their districts will not be tolerated. This is an important moment, and I can tell you that we will soon speak of food safety according to European standards, said the Minister of Local Issues. The task force groups created by both ministries will conduct field checks starting tomorrow and will close any informal markets that operate out of standards. Prime Minister Edi Rama is on an official visit to Singapore, where he held a meeting with the Prime Minister there. Singapore has recently recognized the Republic of Kosovo as an independent state, and Albania's Prime Minister thanked Singapore's Prime Minister for this. The meeting was focused on increasing cooperation between the two countries and capitalizing on the potentials and expertise both countries offer in areas of mutual interest. During the meeting, Prime Minister Rama highlighted the potential Albania offers for investments in different areas. Prime Minister Rama praised Singapore as a model of development, an example of success given its colossal transformation over the course of a quarter century. According to Rama, Singapore was built from scratch and now ranks among the top 20 most developed countries. It was a pleasure to hear Singapore's Prime Minister show great interest in Albania's reforms, as well as the opportunities for more cooperation and attracting business investments. We also discussed recent developments in this region. Singapore recognized Kosovo a few weeks ago, which means a major step forward for Kosovo, but also a move that brings us closer, said Prime Minister Rama. The two counterparts also discussed the foreign investment potentials Albania offers, highlighting different areas. Albania has important investment prospects, but the focus is always on energy, oil, minerals, and tourism, said the Prime Minister. When asked about airport infrastructure, especially relevant to tourism, the Prime Minister had this to say: "Plenty of work has been done to render the conditions more attractive for businesses. I believe that in the next term of office, work on at least 2 airports will get underway." That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.